Okay, good morning, everybody. It's August. It's a funny old month. So many people away. We have some visitors today. It's lovely to see faces I don't recognize. You're really welcome. It's lovely to have you here with us. We put out just a few chairs because I knew there would be sort of less people today, but it's nice to see you here with us. It's really good to be here, I hope you think. And in the summer, things are slightly different. We normally have children's work and youth work, and we don't have that during our services. We're giving people a bit of a break to kind of come back stronger in September and hit the ground running. But there isn't a single child here today. This is great. We might actually be able to do some reflective-y kind of quiet things. Shh, Justin. So yeah, I'm saying all that in case you're visiting, and just to give you an image of the kind of community that we are, this messy, broad community with lots of life and energy and every age that you can imagine and different kind of background. But it's lovely to have you here with us. And so we're going to do something just a little bit different, again, because I really love doing what we're going to do today. Whether you do or not, we'll find out. Today is really simple. I want us to look at a bit of the Bible. In fact, 3 verses. And I want us to look at it again and again and again and see what it might say to you today. That's the plan. Is that okay? We're going to sing some songs. It's always nice to arrive early and hear these guys rehearsing, and it's sounding beautiful. No pressure, but it sounded beautiful in rehearsal. So I'm looking forward to listening to these songs, people joining in if you want to join in with them. Ian didn't know what I was going to speak about today, but it fits perfectly with what it is that we're going to talk about. So, if a couple of people can help me out, I want everybody to have sight of these few verses. So, we don't normally start this way, but we're going to start by reading these verses together. And what we're going to try and do is kind of go deeper into it and think about it more. So this is the first read through, if you like. And some of you will know this story, and some of you will never have heard it in your lives before, I guess. In fact, just have a little look at the story. Is anybody unfamiliar with this story? A couple of people. I think you're the lucky ones in the room, because I want us to try and read this with fresh eyes. So we're going to read it, and then we're going to do other stuff, and we're going to come back to it. But if possible, and some people in the room will be able to do this better, a bit of multitasking, I want you to just kind of keep on chewing over this story through everything that we do this morning. Is that okay? Come on in. So the words are going to be on the screen, plus you've got them in your hands, hopefully. Share them around. If you need to share a copy. Oops, sorry. It's my fault. So this is to just familiarise yourself with the story, to hear it again or to hear it for the first time. And so if you can see the screen, or if you've got the words in front of you, and if you're happy to read out loud, let's just try and read this together. This could be kind of chaos, but let's just kind of find our voice in reading this little story. And we're going to come back to it several times today. So let's read, if that's okay. And he said to them, "Suppose one of you has a friend, and you go to him at midnight and say to him, 'Friend, lend me 3 loaves of bread, for a friend of mine has arrived, and I have nothing to set before him.' And he answers from within, 'Do not bother me. The door has already been locked, and my children are with me in bed. I cannot get up and give you anything.' I tell you, even though he will not get up and give him anything because he is his friend, at least because of his persistence, he will get up and give him whatever he needs." Okay? So that's the story. It's a story that Jesus told. So we've just read some words that Jesus first spoke to a gathering of people. Start chewing that over. What is this about? And that's all we're going to do today. We're just going to ask ourselves, what is this story? What did it mean to the people who were listening at the time, maybe? What does it mean as we sit in this room for us as a community? And ultimately, what might this speak to you today? We talk about the Bible often as this living word. There's something, it's more than just a book. There's something, has a sort of X factor to it. And the X factor is that it's alive in ways that other pieces of writing aren't. So how is it alive to you today? How might it speak to you today? That's what we're going to do. Is that okay? Brilliant. Well, that's what we're doing anyway, to be quite blunt. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to sing a couple of songs together. And again, just as a way of... just as a way of getting ourselves into the right headspace, I thought it would be good to read a psalm together. And this is Psalm 136. And I'm going to say a line, and then you're going to say a line after each line. And your line is, "His love endures forever." Is that okay? Should we have a little practice? His love endures forever. And in Psalm 136, if you know it, there's a line, and then it says, "His love endures forever." This is from the Message version, because I like the bits that it says. But he's translated as, "His love never quits." Come on. "His love endures forever" is a better line, isn't it? So we're going to go Message, NIV, Message, NIV. I don't know if you're allowed to do that, but hey. So that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to do it. There are 13 lines. I think this will fail spectacularly, but I'm up for that. So I want you to start off saying "His love endures forever" with a 13th amount of your belief, and build up to the final time when we'll say with a great gusto, and people will hear it out on the street, "His love endures forever." Okay, so we're going to start quietly and then build up. Are you with me? About 5 people of you look like you're with me. Why don't we stand if you're able to stand? Because then afterwards we'll go straight into singing together. But remember your line, "His love endures forever." Okay, thank God. He deserves your thanks. His love endures forever. Thank the God of all gods. his love endures forever. Thank the Lord of all lords, his love endures forever. Thank the miracle-working God, his love endures forever. The God whose skill formed the cosmos, his love endures forever. The God who laid out earth on ocean foundations, his love endures forever. The God who filled the skies with light, his love endures forever. The sun to watch over the day, his love endures forever. Moon and stars as guardians of the night, his love endures forever. God remembered us when we were down, his love endures forever. You've only got 3 more. Rescued us from the trampling boot, his love endures forever. Takes care of everyone in time of need, his love endures forever. Last one. Thank God, he did it all. His love endures forever. Amen. Thanks, Ian.
Let's sing these words. Great your faithfulness. Great your faithfulness. O God, my Father, O God, my friend, your love, it never fades. And so I love you until the end. When shadows fall, you never change. From age to age, you never change. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. Through the years, you've always been there. And great is your love for us, your love for us. Through the years, you've always been there. So great your kindness, God. You are our shelter, our dwelling place. Your presence like a fire. Hope for tomorrow, strength for today. When shadows fall, you never change. From age to age, you never change. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. Through the years, you've always been there. And great is your love for us, your love for us. Through the years, you've always been there. We will stand upon your promises. We are strong because our hope is in you. And we will run, we will run, we will run. We belong to you, to you. Sing, great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. Through the years, you've always been there. And great is your love for us, your love for us. There is a truth older than the ages. There is a promise of things as yet to come. There is the one who's born for our salvation. He is Jesus. And there is a light that overwhelms the darkness. Yes, there is a kingdom that forever reigns. is a freedom from the chains that bind us. He is Jesus, who walks on the water, who speaks to the sea, who stands in the fire beside me. He roars like a lion, he bled as a lamb, he carries my healing in his hand. Jesus. There is a name I call in times of trouble, and there is a song that comforts in the night, and there is a voice that calms the storms that rages. He is Jesus, who walks on the water, who speaks to the sea, who stands in the fire beside me. He roars like a lion, he bled as a lamb, he carries my healing in his hand. Jesus, Messiah, my Savior, there is power in your name, and you're my rock and my Redeemer. There's power in your name, in your name. Who walks on the water? You walk on the water, you speak to the sea, you stand in the fire beside me, and you roar like a lion, you died as a lamb, you carry my healing in your hands. Jesus. Jesus.
Amen. Have a seat. Please do come in and grab a seat. And this is for not necessarily of any age or whatever, but over there is some colouring in. Woo! And so anybody could go and do that if you want to do that. There's other places in the building if you want to go and you need some space. But for those of you who joined us, we're looking at this passage, and I'm going to read it to you again. So hear these words. And he said to them, "Suppose one of you has a friend, and you go to him at midnight and say to him, 'Friend, lend me 3 loaves of bread, for a friend of mine has arrived and I have nothing to set before him.' And he answers from within, 'Do not bother me. The door has already been locked and my children are with me in bed. I cannot get up and give you anything.' I tell you, even though he will not get up and give him anything because he is his friend, at least because of his persistence, he will get up and give him whatever he needs." So we're going to keep coming back to this passage. What's it all about? And the first task I want you to think about, and I have to confess, I'm setting you a task that I completely drew a blank on myself. But I want you to have a little conversation with somebody next to you about what might be a kind of contemporary version of this story. So this tells a little bit about already, what do you think the story's about? And is there a kind of modern equivalent? Because already again, if you're too used to church, this stuff washes over you and you're, oh yeah, this is that story about the bloke who's run out of bread. He goes next door to his neighbour won't get up, he gets really ratty, his neighbour gets up, gives him bread, end of story. Without going, hold on a minute, the guy's come in the middle of the night, why does he need bread then? Why hasn't he got any bread? Why has the neighbour got bread but he hasn't got bread? This is a story about bread and about hospitality and stuff that we don't necessarily have a cultural understanding of particularly. And I'm sure you can acknowledge that there is probably something cultural going on here. When somebody comes to visit you and you don't have any bread, there is a kind of shameful thing. I don't imagine you have quite the same thing. You've got an abundance of stuff that you could give. But what is this story trying to tell us? And can you think of a kind of modern day parable? Something that is contemporary, that echoes what this story is trying to tell us, okay? So that, just get your little brains, how patronizing, get your brains thinking about this. Can you think of a contemporary kind of version of this story? Does the task at least make sense? Brilliant, because I can't think of one. I thought about sharing broadband with the neighbour. No, I don't know. That's not. You'll think of something better than that. It doesn't have to be about a neighbour. It can be completely different. But what is this story trying to tell us? And can you think of an equivalent parable? Okay, let me give you a couple of notices whilst you chew that stuff over. There isn't much to tell you about. We're in the middle of the summer. Lots of things that normally happen aren't happening, and lots of things are happening that don't normally happen. So firstly, next Sunday, we're not meeting. Basically, it's a bank holiday weekend. There's a bunch of us who are going to Greenbelt. Anton's taking a bunch of the young people there. It's going to be great. But it means that lots and lots of people were away. And we thought, for just one Sunday, let's not meet and give people the freedom to do what you've got the freedom anyway to do what you want to do. But you might want to go and visit another church, or you might want to go and climb a mountain. I don't know. But I don't know why I'm giving you freedom to do what you're going to do anyway. The point is there's no church here next Sunday. So that was and then the only second thing I wanted to, and I forgot to ask you if this is okay, Sam, but can I borrow you just quickly? Because we in danger sometimes of some of the stuff that the church does. We get so kind of used to it that we forget to kind of make a bigger deal. We're in the middle of the summer and Chomp, one of our projects, is in full swing. I don't think we've talked about it on a Sunday, and we should really talk about it because it's a brilliant, brilliant thing. And Sam line manages the people who do that. So just, can you tell people what Chomp is, what's going on in the summer, and what would be good to know about? Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, gosh, hello. Chomp, for those of you who don't know, is a project that we run as a part of this church that kind of works with people who are likely to experience holiday hunger. So people who get free school meals during term time, but then in the summer holiday, historically at least, that provision has dried up. And what we've done is kind of provided for over a decade now, I think. Is that right? Chomp started? Yeah, about 10 years ago. Chomp started to provide like holiday lunch clubs for kids all across Brighton and Hove, across lots and lots of different venues, where you can come, you can get a really, really good, hearty meal, but also there's great activities. And over time as well, what that's led to is actually like a bunch of little communities across Brighton and Hove. So it's no longer just, oh, I need a free meal, I'll show up there. But actually each different area has these kind of little Chomp communities that are really blossoming support mechanisms for the families within them that's really beautiful. So every week through the summer holiday this term, our Chomp team, which is Vanessa, Sophia and Rosie, are all across the city cooking great food and facilitating fantastic crafts for kids every day of the week, and they're working really flat out and it's brilliant. So we'll give them a little bit of time off, maybe a day, at the start of September, just to kind of recover. But they're doing a great job, and also we've got lots of partner venues across the city as well. It's just a really great project. They're always open to people wanting to volunteer. So if you at any point in the next, maybe not in the next couple of weeks, I don't know, but maybe, but certainly like in future holidays, it's just such a great thing to get involved with. So if you ever like, oh, I'd be free for a day in half term, then please get in touch, because it's just first of all, it's a great thing to help out with. Secondly, it's a lovely thing to do. Like going to a Chomp session is just so much fun. The kids are great, the family's fantastic, and it's a real privilege to be involved with.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sam. So look out for Chomp. If you're somebody part of the church, and you pray for that project, as loads and loads of people are being connected with. This Thursday, I think there's a trip to Rock Farm. And so, yeah, all just great stuff happening. Equally, after the service today, we have this meal, which we call our community meal. There's a real variety of people who come, some people who are homeless, some people who are vulnerably housed, some people who just want to connect with people. And the kind of buzz and that room being full with great food is just a really good thing to be involved in. I think it's really nice to go. We've got enough volunteers. Nobody has to come. But if you're thinking, oh, maybe we could stick around and help out, or come along and eat, then that would be really good. I've heard the menu. I mean, it's chicken and pork belly. Like, I'm helping today, and I was going to help anyway, but I'm definitely helping. I've given up meat, I know that, but sometimes you just have to get involved. And the potatoes look lovely. But that happens every month. And again, just another way that if you think, I'd like to get involved here, I'd like to get to know some people, it's a great thing to do. It's not, we don't do this stuff out of pity or any kind of sense. It's this thing of doing something together. And it feels a really positive thing to do. So please be wary of that. I'm going to read you this passage one more time, and then I want you to have a little chat about, can you think of a modern day equivalent thing to help us put it into context and think about what's going on in this story? And Jesus said to them, suppose one of you has a friend, and you go to him at midnight and say to him, friend, lend me 3 loaves of bread, for a friend of mine has arrived and I have nothing to set before him. And he answers from within, do not bother me. The door has already been locked and my children are with me in bed. I cannot get up and give you anything. I tell you, even though he will not get up and give him anything because he's his friend, at least because of his persistence, he will get up and give him whatever he needs. Don't think this is easy, but can you think of a contemporary, modern equivalent story? Have a chat, and maybe once you begin to speak, something will flow. But you've got 3.5 minutes to do that. Go for it. Be brave. Be friendly. Okay, just 30 seconds more. Okay. I know I always say this, probably. No, I do always say this, but I just love this kind of thing. I think that as a sort of group of people trying to discover what Christian faith is all about, trying to understand God more, trying to do life together better, this is the kind of nub of it. We've got these ancient scriptures, this stuff that we suddenly enter into a very different zone. All of you have been going about your business this week. Some of you have come into this room hundreds of times. Some of you, this is the first time. But suddenly, we're entering into a kind of story that's been unfurling for 2,000 years of people who gather and who look at stories that Jesus told or things that Jesus did and ask the deep questions of it. And that's okay. And there's something profound about this, a story like this, that I must have read hundreds of times in my lifetime. I've been going to church my whole life. I've heard this story so many times, but there's something profound and beautiful about the ability to come at it and to see another angle in it, see something rich and beautiful and challenging in it. So this is Christian faith, what we're doing here, the working out. All questions are possible. Nothing is off menu. You can challenge it, you can doubt it, you can be annoyed by it, you can be thrilled by it. It's all okay to do that. This is what the Christian faith is. It is struggle. It is questioning, and it's a good thing to do. So, when you tell me your stories, you are beginning to also answer the question of what you think this is about. So let's listen to each other's contemporary stories. Anybody find something? Anybody happy to go first? Go on, Gary, thank you.
So when your 17-year-old who's at a music festival miles away from home texts in the middle of the night to say, "Mum, can you gift me some data?" How's that?
I think it's very good and it feels very live. Yeah. So finishing that story would be, well, it's in the middle of the night, you can't have it. But because he keeps on texting, surely you need the data to do the text. Anyway, but because he keeps on texting, even as a loving parent, I'm not going to give it you, but I'm going to give it you because you keep on texting. Brilliant. Perfect, I think. Really good. What else? Any other examples? Thanks, Nell.
Yes, Al and I are key holders for near neighbour who's bedridden, and the care team that look after him also have our phone number. And inevitably, if we get a phone call, it's always bang in the middle of the night. He's fallen out of bed, he needs medical help, and so either one of us or both of us have to go over to sit with him, and then we don't quite understand why the caretaker, the care agency expects us to sit with them, but the last time I think Al had to sit with him for 5 hours before the ambulance came, so he didn't get much sleep that night.
Brilliant. Persistence of something that you're doing it because you're nice people, but you're the key holder, you've got to do it. Brilliant. Great story. What else?
I think the thought I had was modern or current as in the cost of fuel. So I was thinking either petrol or power in your house. That actually if you either needed to get someone, so I was thinking you needed to get a child or you needed to get someone, or they were coming to your house and you had no fuel, that somebody may be thinking, all of a sudden I now need it because somebody else needs me. So the sense in the perseverance, the bit that I felt was you could do without it for yourself, but all of a sudden somebody else needs it, so you face the shame of maybe saying to somebody else, I haven't got it, and can I have some?
Brilliant. Brilliantly contextual. Brilliant.
I'm not saying I'm remotely good enough to do this, but I just think it's about, you run out of goodwill because people are your friend quite quickly, and if someone isn't your friend, then you don't have any to begin with, and there is a deeper reason to do things, which is to do with persistence and duty, and them being human and them being child of God or whatever, which you do. You know, for example, these meals that I'm, again, not good enough to do or participate in, but, you know, you do that even though the people who come are maybe strangers and, you know, maybe not your friends, and you don't do it because they're your friends, you know, like you would at a dinner party. You do it because, you know, of persistence, because they, you know, for a deeper reason.
Brilliant. That's great. Anybody else? Yes. Oh, I've got two here. I'll go Charlie first, then to you, Vanessa.
Kind of reminds me of Shrek and Donkey at the start of the first film, where Donkey's desperate for somewhere to stay, and Shrek keeps saying no, and Donkey's, you know, peering at the window, going, please, 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 until he winds him down. So.
Brilliant, brilliant. Wish I'd thought of that. We should have watched that. That would be great. Vanessa.
Thanks. So combining like the last two elements there, the Shrek and Donkey element and like the duty element, that's basically my and Tim's dynamic, living together as we have been for the last several months. It often kind of works out as Tim will kind of petition me for an idea to improve things like buying a doorbell or like getting a kind of cover to prevent the sun from streaming into this 10th floor flat. And my attitude is always, nope. And eventually I see that there's actually a reason for it and it's a good thing, and Tim talks me around. So yeah, this is an amazing passage. It speaks to me personally.
Brilliant. Good stuff. Fantastic. Well, let's continue where Vanessa finished off there, of this speaks to me. So let's just shift for a moment. So we've kind of thought about context. There's these consistent things about being persistent. There's this shame element that we've thought about, of something that you want. What are the problems with this passage? Anybody, what do you find problematic about it? Jude?
I mean, without like abundance and scarcity and like persistence over relationship, before you get to any of that, is like in the Middle East to entertain. So if someone comes around to your place without asking, are you hungry, are you thirsty? There's an expectation that you will put a mini feast out and some more. And like, if you don't do that, you're just not even delivering at the basic level. So it's problematic because actually it's culturally dislocated from what we know as interdependence societally in the UK. So that's difficult to just even get heads around.
Yeah, definitely. Peter.
The guy's actually obviously up, or he's awake, so what's the extra effort he needs to do? Just pick up a loaf of bread and chuck it over a wall.
That's a very good point, yes. Karim.
Sorry, the problem that I had was I assumed that Jesus is giving this analogy for the Father in heaven, right? Like, be persistent with your prayers, because eventually God will answer it. But you'd be thinking as God is much more keen to want to answer your prayers, potentially. So I find it hard to make this kind of comparison that God's like the guy who's just trying to get his sleep and is annoyed by this person who's coming to ask for bread. You know, I feel like he would, you know, ask and he shall receive, he also says. So that I feel like there's a bit of a contradiction.
Thank you, Karim. He's given the very reason that I wanted us to look at this passage. Because we blindly go, maybe particularly if you're a child and you like, I heard this passage, and you go, oh yeah, and that's persistence in prayer. I think even on the sheets you've been given, they subtitle it, does it say persistent prayer? Perseverance in prayer. I mean, is that not problematic to you? God is in bed with his children, and he can't be bothered to get up and help you unless you nag him. Is that the message that we take away? Because that was what I was taught. And who said, again, if you're not used to this church stuff, you might be going, I didn't think any of those characters in this story was God. I thought this was a parable about life. But once you get told something, it's hard to break that sort of cycle, which is why it's always worth coming back to this story. So I wonder if, does God have to be in the story for it to be profound? Of course not. But what if God is the man knocking on the door asking for help from somebody on behalf of his friend? What if God is the friend who's come to visit the friend? What if God's one of the children? What if God's just observing? What if God's not present at all? So what I want us to do is I'm going to share a couple of thoughts with you. And the danger is it always comes across like, well done everybody, now here's the answer. That is not the case. This is just an extended exercise. What we've just done together is what I've been doing over the course of the last week. Bumping into this story through some random thing and then going, what is that about? And there's something just lovely about chewing it over and being free to go, well, what if God isn't in the story and this is about something else? Or what if God is the person knocking at the door saying, I want to benefit somebody else, but this other person needs... It doesn't implicitly say within the text, this is what prayer is like. It comes after Jesus' teaching on prayer, and it comes just before the passage Jesus saying, ask and you will find, seek and you will find, ask and it will be given to you. So what I want us to do just for a moment is shift the focus entirely and just allow yourself to be open for a minute to the question of what might this passage be speaking to you. And I want you to allow yourself to be surprised at what the answer might be. If somebody's face comes into your mind, or a name, or a situation that you're going through personally right now, or a fear that you have, or something that you're really looking forward to, or something randomly kind of appears into your conscience, question it. Allow it to just happen as you think about this story. And in effect, to use kind of Christian-y language, allow the Spirit to speak to you through this passage. So take a moment, and you might want to say a prayer. And it might be something like, God, speak to me. Spirit, speak to me. What do you hear as you hear these words? And he said to them, suppose one of you has a friend, and you go to him at midnight and say to him, friend, lend me 3 loaves of bread, for a friend of mine has arrived, and I have nothing to set before him. And he answers from within, do not bother me. The door has already been locked, and my children are with me in bed. I cannot get up and give you anything. I tell you, even though he will not get up and give him anything because he's his friend, at least because of his persistence, he will get up and give him whatever he needs. Just take a moment, if you don't mind. Just, again, speak to somebody around you. This is the last time you're going to speak to anybody ever again. It's okay. But I'm not going to ask you to share anything personal that you just thought about. But as we've chewed this over and you've heard it 4 or 5 times now, what is it you've noticed? What is it that sticks out to you? What do you think this passage might be about? What's your best guess this morning? Is that okay? And then we're going to sing a song together, and then I'm just going to share a very short couple of thoughts with you. But just chat with someone around you. What do you think as you sit here again and have looked at it in fresh eyes again? What do you think is going on here? What do you think it's about? Go for it. Okay. Let me interrupt you there. I just love hearing that. I mean, you might have been talking about the weather, but I love hearing people talk together. And in a moment, I wasn't going to do this, but I'd much rather speak less of my own thoughts and hear more of yours. So in a moment, it'd be good to just hear from a couple of people what you think this might be saying, for us to find richness in it. But let's stand. Give yourself a chance to just stand and breathe again. Change space a little bit from thinking about the passage to just thinking about being in the presence of God, about his kind of faithfulness, about his solidity in the midst of questioning a passage like this, or maybe even within the passage itself, there's something about the persistence of God that you've thought about. But let's sing together, and then I'll ask you to give me a little bit of feedback. That would be great.
Sing light in my darkness, light in my darkness, peace for my soul. You are my rescue, you've never let go. Sing those words again, light in my darkness, light in my darkness, peace for my soul. You are my rescue, you never let go. All my hope is in you, and all my strength is in you. With every breath, my soul will rest in you. Here in my weakness, always the same. Your love is my shelter, your life is my way, and all my hope, all my hope is in you, and all my strength is in you. With every breath, my soul will rest in you. Sing, all my hope is in you. All my hope is in you, and all my strength is in you. With every breath, my soul will rest in you. Constant Savior, friend forever, Lord, you have my heart. Sure foundation, never failing, Lord, you have my heart. All my hope, and all my hope is in you, and all my strength is in you. With every breath, my soul will rest in you. And all the earth beneath you, and all my life before you. With every breath, my soul will rest in you. With every breath, my soul will rest in you.
Amen. Have a seat. And he said to them, suppose one of you has a friend, and you go to him at midnight and say to him, "Friend, lend me 3 loaves of bread, for a friend of mine has arrived and I have nothing to set before him." And he answers from within, "Do not bother me. The door has already been locked and my children are with me in bed. I cannot get up and give you anything." I tell you, even though he will not get up and give him anything because he's his friend, at least because of his persistence, he will get up and give him whatever he needs. Anybody going to be brave to tell us a thought that you had? I'm going to go here and then here.
I made it bigger on my phone because I haven't got my glasses with me, and that translation of the bit about his persistence in this New International Version says, "Yet because of your shameless audacity, he will surely get up and give you as much as you need." So I think the message for me about that is it's worth asking. And looking at it in the context of this coming straight after the Lord's Prayer, they say teach us to pray, the Lord's Prayer, he goes on to say, "You're evil and you know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more God will give you the Holy Spirit." That it isn't about you get whatever you ask for, because we all know God doesn't give us whatever we ask for, but sometimes that kind of persistence of asking again and again, over time I have found I kind of change what I'm asking for, because I realise that what I'm asking for might not be the best either for me or for the person I'm asking it for.
Brilliant. That's brilliant. Thank you, Helen.
Well, this might just be objectively wrong, but just brace yourself. I read it as the persistence of God. And the reason I say that is because he gives whatever he needs, not what he wants, which is what happens, but for better or worse. And also, he answers from within. It's answering from within, like the Spirit answers from within. And do not bother me, the door has already been locked. So it's almost like you don't have a relationship with God. You feel like the door has already been locked, and yet you're still there asking, even though it's, because you're desperate. I cannot give you, whatever. So so he doesn't do it because he's his friend, because you're not the friend of God. You don't have a friend in Jesus. You don't have a relationship. You feel like you know a relationship, yet you're still asking. And because of that, God's persistence will still deliver what you need.
Brilliant. It's a lovely shift, isn't there, from "I need 3 loaves of bread," and at the end he doesn't say, "and he got his 3 loaves of bread." He got what he needed. I think that's a lovely emphasis. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think I really related when you made us think about that God might not be the person who's being woken up, and sort of reflecting, it kind of spoke to me that maybe God is the one knocking on the door and I'm the one who's like, "Oh, go away, I'm sleeping." And yeah, actually there's something I've learned from this story that I've not thought before about. Maybe it's me who's saying I can't get up and give you everything, and God's like, "Are you sure? Just keep knocking."
Brilliant. Thanks, Judith. That's wonderful.
My thought was that sometimes you want things to happen, you need things to happen, and you try, and nothing's happening. And then you realise a bit later on that, well, it has all happened, but it's not in the way that you thought. That he gives you whatever you need.
Hi. So I was struck by the role of the friend who's arrived. And if we're saying that God is the one who's knocking and being persevering, then why is he doing that, and what's the message? And the message is actually that God wants you to help somebody else. It's not just helping God, it's helping God's friend as well. And so God is kind of that connector between one person and one person who is not that other person's friend, but maybe will become so.
That's brilliant. I love that. That's brilliant. To throw it. I better not throw it.
Yeah, I think what everyone said so far is great. I'm not convinced that God really is in the story. I feel like it's more of a analogy, kind of using people. But there's an element at which, and I know it's wrong, sometimes I feel that God's annoyed with me or upset with me, and I feel sometimes there's a sense of distance in my relationship. And there's almost a reassurance in there that that if you feel you have a separation from God, it doesn't really matter. You can still insist, and at least because of your insistence, God's still going to answer. It just kind of struck me, that sense that even in your wrong thinking, that parable can still be really reassuring.
Brilliant stuff. So I'm going to cut my 45 minutes down. Karim, let's hear from Karim.
I'm really struggling to think that the person who's coming to ask for bread is the one who's God. I mean, it might well be the case. The way that I see it is, I'm also in line with what you explained. So, like, the person who was, the person who's sleeping is indeed God. And, he's the one who has. He's the one who has, and the person who's coming is the one in need. But even if he wants to give something because he's his friend, he would normally give him things, but because maybe he's not asking exactly the right thing or at the right time, this time it's not because of that friendship or that relationship that he wants to give it, but it's because of the persistence of the person who's coming. And I relate it very much to what we ask from God. Sometimes it's not the right thing at the right time, but if we're persistent, maybe God makes it the right thing, or he makes it work out. Just because we're so persistent, and he doesn't want our friendship with him or our relationship to be damaged.
Brilliant. So all those different angles that we've just shared, it's not that anybody's more right or more wrong. This is us looking through different windows, catching glimpses of the richness and profundity of Jesus' beautiful stories. The thing I always happens to me a lot is I'll be thinking, I don't know if this happens to you, I'll be thinking about one thing that feels unrelated, and then you're reading a novel or you're reading something, nothing completely disconnected, and then you go, this is connected with that other thought I was having. And that's happened to me, and this might feel like the oddest sort of link, but there's a book called 4,000 Weeks. Anybody come across that book? Really would recommend it highly. And it's called Time Management for Mortals. And it's basically this brilliant guy going, all of those time management skills, all of this stuff about how to fit most into your life, which is on average 4,000 weeks, is all a load of rubbish. It just doesn't help. All of the time management stuff, because in reality, we are made in certain ways. And actually living the best life that you can, and he starts by saying, the first thing is a shift in your mind that is from, only 4,000 weeks, that's depressing, to, we've got 4,000 weeks. You don't deserve, you've got no right to the next breath. But actually that gift of the potential of 4,000 weeks. And but at one point he talks about this phrase that I'm going to come to in a moment. But when I then read this parable, I thought about these two things, about how to use your life well and about this parable. And the simple thought I want to bring, that if I was just doing the same job that I just did in passing the microphone around, is I just want to think about two things. One of them is that at the very least, surely we can agree that it's a parable that tells us that problems exist in life. There's something about Jesus that I just adore, in that everything that you get accused of as a Christian, having your head in the clouds, and, where's your God now when that prayer wasn't answered, and all of that stuff that you want to go, I don't believe that stuff, don't tar me with that brush. When I come back to Jesus, there's this incredible kind of openness and honesty to Jesus, who even says the phrase, in this life you will have troubles. And in this parable, the first thing that I notice is that he's just acknowledging that problems arise. So when he tells this story, there aren't people scratching their head they're going, oh yeah, that happened to me. He's talking about a really real thing. When, like Jude nodded to it, in this culture, hospitality is an incredibly important value. If you've been, most places outside of the UK and America actually have very different hospitality understanding. The first time I ever went to Albania, fresh, within a couple of years at the end of communism in Albania, going to the poorest homes I'd ever been to and knocking on their door, and literally people opening the door, seeing it was me with someone translating, and say, come in. That's mind-blowing, isn't it, when you're British? Think about that. You get two strangers knock on the door, and the first thing you say isn't, "What are you here for?" You say, "Come in." The next thing they did in every house that I went to, even though it felt empty and nothing, one of the kids would be sent off to the shop, as much as the shop was, to go and get a bottle of Coca-Cola, generally what it was, because Coca-Cola had managed to get there during communism, if nothing else had. And so, guests coming, get a bottle of Coke. And they were saying to me that might be their week's money used on a bottle of Coca-Cola for you. I mean, mind-blowing stuff, and some of you will know that sort of thing. So when Jesus tells this story, he's not telling some esoteric, weird thing. People are going, "Yeah, that's me." He is telling the story about what it's like to have teenage kids who demand stuff from you, and it's frustrating, and they won't let it. You just give in for a quiet life. People go, "Oh, yeah. You know, those kids that you know, like our kids. One thing when our kids grow up, they're not going to watch too much television. 5:30 in the morning, you're awake. CBeebies, thank you very much. See you in 2 hours. You know, suddenly the pragmatism kicks in. And Jesus is telling a story like that, and everyone's sort of laughing, because I think there's a bit of humour in this story. Whoops, bad, caught out without anybody. Fancy the guy turning up in the middle of the night when your bread is done for the day. So there's lots of kind of playfulness in this, but what he's acknowledging is this life has problems. That's my first point. And the second point is what this Oliver Burkeman in 4,000 Weeks says. He says that patience is a superpower. And it's one of the most underrated qualities in life. And the more I've thought about this, the more profound I've found it, mainly because it hit me right where I am in my life right now. Trying to finish a PhD that is doing my head in. What I don't need is more intelligence. I definitely could do. But what I mean, I actually just need more time. That's what I tell myself. Because this is it. This is my takeaway piece for you that I think this parable is knocking towards. Is that things take the time that they take. There you go. Profound. I think Jesus might be telling this parable for that reason. Because how many times does the guy knock on the door? Does he knock once? Is it twice? We're not told. But say it's 6 times. He says, "Come on, please. I'm desperate. This friend's come. Please." If it's the 7th knock that gets the guy out of bed, then it's taken 7 knocks. 5 won't do. 4 won't do. 6 won't do. It has to be the 7th knock that gets the guy out of bed. And what this story is about liminality, to a sort of fancy phrase. It's about the point between a problem arising and a solution arriving. And liminal space, the best way to understand a liminal space is a doorway. So that doorway there, it has no kind of purpose, but the doorway is neither in this room, nor is it in that little corridor. It's just full of potential. To go and stand in it, you might not be in either room, but liminality is when you find yourself between 2 spaces. I think of Rhea, sorry to pick on you, about to go to university, caught in a liminal space. She's not there yet, but she's going to IKEA and she's buying stuff and she's imagining what it's like, caught in that liminal space. So many of you are in liminal spaces right now. It might be that there's a friendship that's broken down and it's not dead, but it's not what it should be. It might be that you're married to somebody and your relationship is not what it should be. That's a kind of liminal, knowing that this isn't what I dreamed of, but it's not this thing either. Living in these liminal spaces. And this image of a guy knocking on a door is the perfect image of liminality. He hasn't achieved anything, but he has left his own home in the attempt to do it. And for me, it feels like this message from Jesus. If it's to do with prayer, it's not to do with how to get your prayers answered. Just keep praying the same thing. I think lots of you have picked up that. It's the persistence that says, if this is the right thing, I must keep on doing this thing. If it's the right thing to do, I must keep on doing it. And the voice of God saying, don't give up because you're not seeing answers, because it is the right thing to do. It's the right thing to wish for. It's the right thing to hope for. That friend of yours who is ill and you want them to be well. Don't give up visiting them. Don't give up praying. It feels like you're shouting into the wind and it's pointless. But you never know just how close you are to being with them in that breakthrough. Or, in the big scheme of eternity, that God understands and we don't, a lot of us find this great comfort in the truth that all things shall be well. All manner of things shall be well in the end. Maybe not now, but the persistence to believe, to keep on going. We've swum a few times more times this year than we have any other year, and it's been wonderful. And we had a few times of swimming at night. I don't know who's done that. And recently there were a couple of amazing, super moons. What were they called? The sturgeon moon was this moon. I don't know if anyone was down on the beach, but we timed it so that the sunset that was absolutely beautiful. And then literally around the beach, I could hear gasps from people as this moon rose up over the pier. And it was red and it was beautiful and it was incredible. And we'd been in the water and out of the water and we sat there and it got darker and darker. And then sort of thought we should go home. And I go towards the bag that we'd put all our stuff in. And I noticed that the bag was upside down. And straight away, I knew I'd taken my wedding ring off because I like to be on the pull on the beach. And because it comes off in the water, so I put it in the bottom of the bag. And I sort of thought, I hope my wedding ring hasn't fallen out the bag. And I go to the bag, and it's not there. It's not there. And I'm saying to Becky, my wedding ring, it was in the bag, it was just there. And there was other friends there, and it was like, it can only just be around here somewhere. And so there's a couple of picnic blankets, and there's food and stuff, but the bag was just there. So everybody very kindly puts their light on their phone, and in the dark are trying to search for my wedding ring. And I don't know how long it was, 20, 30 minutes of us just going over it. And I'm then feeling bad because no one's looking at this beautiful moon anymore. They're trying to find this ring of mine, the one ring to rule them all. And it's like, I really, really want to find it because this is my wedding ring. But at some point you just have to stop, don't you? And I said to people, it's okay. I mean, I felt stupid saying it because it wasn't okay, but it's okay. I wish I'd taken my wedding ring off to raise a bit of suspense at this point. but guess what? And I'd given up, really. And I was already thinking about going into the lanes and buying myself a new wedding ring because I thought it's just lost. We've just looked. And then away from everything, I just catch a little glimmer. Just literally as I'm saying, forget it. And there it was, with some stones on top of it. It was just unbelievable to kind of find it. I don't think it was an answered prayer. I just found it. Or was it an answered prayer? Because I just found it. Because I didn't give up. Because I wanted to find it. And I think that there are things in your life right now that your superpower you should be praying for is patience. Is the patience to just not give up. Oliver Burkeman tells this lovely story about going past a guy fixing his lawnmower. And he says to the guy, I wish I could, fix things like that. And he expected this old man to say, if ever I can help. But the old man turned to him and said, well, you could. You just haven't taken the time to learn how to do it. which is an amazing answer, isn't it? And he's absolutely true. You go, well, I'm not very good at fixing things. Well, you're not very good because you haven't tried it and you haven't got the book out is the manual on how to fix it, because you don't have to have the superpower to fix a lawnmower. Your superpower needs to be patience. To actually go, I can actually do this. And most things in life you can do with patience. And yet we don't talk about patience very much. And there it is as one of the fruits of God's Spirit in you. Patience. Feels like such a weird thing, a little bit wispy and to talk about. But I think it's a superpower to desire and to pray for and to ask for. Because it is on the seventh knock that the door gets opened. It's not that God says, I'm going to teach you patience. I will give you this thing, but you're going to ask it 25 times. I don't believe that's what's happening here. I think this is God saying there are problems in life, but they're overcomable, and we can do this together as long as you don't check out, as long as you don't walk away from the door, as long as on knock 6 you're prepared to knock 7 times. That's the kind of image. And so we're going to finish, and Zav's going to play us a piece of music, just as a space, really, for 4.5 minutes, for us to just sit. And again, allow yourself to be open. What is it that you need patience for today? It might be hard to not skip to the kind of what is the answer that I need. Just let go of the answer for a minute. Let go of the solution. And what is it that you just got the courage to say to God? Just give me patience. That broken relationship that I grieve over, help me to just be patient and trust. As Helen pointed out, he moves on, Jesus, and says, your Father knows how to give you the good things. He doesn't give you stone when you ask for a bread. He gives you the thing that you need. But your patience is because life has problems. And sometimes they just take a very long time. And I want to read you one of my most precious quotes. This quote, I think, has had more impact on me and shaped me more than any other in terms of a lengthy quote. And it's by someone called Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, who was a Jesuit priest who got kicked out of the Catholic Church, along with someone called Thomas Merton, who was one of his contemporaries. And this is a letter to his sister. Imagine having a brother who could write to you this sort of thing, who was going through some difficulties. And this is just a little passage from it that I want to read to you. I want to read over you as a kind of prophecy to you, as a word to you about the things that you're feeling about the future and the things that you're holding. And then we'll listen to this piece of music together and just allow yourself to be open to what might it be that you're asking for patience for. Above all, trust in the slow work of God. We are quite naturally impatient in everything to reach the end without delay. We should like to skip the intermediate stages. We're impatient of being on the way to something unknown, something new, and yet it is the law of all progress that it is made by passing through some stages of instability, and that it may take a very long time. And so I think it is with you. Your ideas mature gradually. Let them grow. Let them shape themselves without undue haste. Don't try to force them on as though you could be today what time, that is to say grace and circumstances acting on your own goodwill, will make of you tomorrow. Only God could say what this new spirit gradually forming within you will be. Give our Lord the benefit of believing that his hand is leading you, and accept the anxiety of feeling yourself in suspense and incomplete. We're nearly done. We're going to sing the song as we finish. And just as a way of kind of wrapping up together, doing something together, realizing that all of us, that exercise, I guess, completely kind of makes us individuals all of a sudden, because our individual impatiences and things that we need patience for are as numerous as the people in this room. And yet we have this commonality of humanity, that we're all struggling with this together, that problems do exist. But actually, what can we as a community do to help the patience of one another, to remind ourselves of God's incredible patience? Every song we've sung today has been about his faithfulness, the persistence of God. He is doing his slow work within us, and he never gives up. We can deny him. We can say we don't believe in him. Don't think it bothers God at all. His grace is all one way, saying, I am doing my slow work in you. I think of that famous quote by Martin Luther King Jr., let me get this right: the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. That image that given enough time, the world is becoming more just, and it's hard to believe that. But I think it's true. The slow work of God is working itself out in our lives and in the whole of the cosmos too, because he's faithful and he loves us. So let's stand for one last time as we sing together.
I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hand. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Sing those words again. I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me, and all my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, yes, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire in darkest night. You are close like no other. I've known you as a father. I've known you as a friend. And I have lived in the goodness of God. Singing, all my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. Of the goodness of God. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Yes, your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. 'Cause your goodness is running after me. Your goodness is running after me. Your goodness is running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. 'Cause your goodness is running after me. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. I will sing of the goodness of God.
Let's say the words of the grace as we finish our time together. Let's say these words. May the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us all evermore. Amen. Amen. Have a seat. Thank you so much for being here today. Don't forget, we're not meeting next Sunday, but otherwise, have a good week. Thank you.